Okay, everyone. So I'm fasting today for mental acuity. I think I'm going to bring back fasting. I say bring back because I used to do this all the time when I was in high school, but bring it back once a week, once every 2 weeks, 36, 48-hour fast. It's really, really good for mental acuity, I believe, because for me, it is killing off the bad bacteria in my gut, producing endotoxin, preventing my brain from working properly. And it's just good to keep doing that. I think that that's probably an ongoing process of detox. But without further ado, let's get into 0 to 1. This is a really cool book I just read for the second time, probably like third time, but second period of time in which I've read it in the past 8 months. And the thing about this book I really like, and I'm really glad I read this 6 months ago, is that it talks about like building a business that's not just going to get obsolesced in 5 years. Because that's kind of like, so for you guys who have read the 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss talks a lot about starting just like some random company to provide you just enough money to do whatever. And I think that that is a good idea. Like, definitely start companies, try things, do all this stuff. But if you're going to put your effort into starting a company and you don't just happen to randomly stumble on an idea that works really well with no effort, then you may want to consider reading 0 to 1, because what this book does, it teaches you some frameworks for thinking about starting a company in a way where you start the company so the company lasts for a really long time, building monopolies here. So it starts with an interesting way of thinking. So normally we, in business, like right now in the modern past 20, 30 years, according to Peter Thiel in this book, he says that we have succumbed since the 70s to indefinite optimism, and that is what's ruining our economy, basically. Indefinite optimism is that our view of the future can vary across two metrics: optimism and pessimism, and definite and indefinite. Ancient people generally believed in a definitely pessimistic future. They were or an indefinitely pessimistic future. They didn't know what the future was going to be like, and they thought it was going to be worse than the present. They believed in some mythic golden age in the past, and that we were descending from this golden age into history, and that things are just going to get worse and worse and worse until the end. And lots of like religions have this element. Christianity in the Book of Revelation seems to suggest that things will get worse at some point before the end. We don't know if they'll get better before they get worse or whatever, but there's a lot of this theme of like things getting worse. Indefinite pessimism, let's call that, in the future. The United States was founded on definite optimism, the idea that the future was knowable. We could know the future, we could know what was going to happen in the future, and that it was going to be good. And definite optimism is really more building the future. It's like, I have this idea and I'm going to go make this happen. With the Weak to Warrior, I have a vision for the future that involves helping people with insomnia, building strength organizations, building widespread distribution for healthy food, certifying coaches, and allowing coaches access to my giant marketing machine so that they can market themselves and help people efficiently with the methods that I can certify them in through Weak to Warrior. This very definite vision of the future. I have Weak to Warrior Sleep Minerals coming out. I'm working on Weak to Warrior The God Engine, the book. I'm working on Weak to Warrior The Coffee Table book. I'm working on, like, there's a ton of stuff coming out for Weak to Warrior. There's like t-shirts, like it's just lots of stuff coming out for Weak to Warrior. It's very definite. I have lots of like, it's all written down, like definite plans, optimistic plans, but definite plans. Ancient people were indefinitely pessimistic. The Chinese, according to Peter Thiel's assessment, are indefinite pessimists. They believe the future is knowable. They think it will be pretty much the same as it is now, but slightly worse. So they're basically copying everything we're doing. And we are indefinite optimists. We don't think we know what the future is going to be like, so we're kind of just doing whatever. And we think it's going to be better for some reason, even though no one's building it. And that's one really good point that Peter Thiel makes in this book. He's like, why is everyone in the United States so convinced the future is going to be better if no one's building it? And Europe, it's not the case. In Europe, they are indefinite pessimists as well. They think the future will be worse, but they're not quite sure how and when, so just drink and be merry, and whatever happens, happens, but we can't control things. So Peter Thiel's book is a call to definite optimism. It's a call to deciding what the future is going to be and then going out and creating it. This is very useful for entrepreneurs and people who are trying to make money, because first of all, the wealth of the country comes from this definite optimism. And secondly, in order to build this future, we need to create monopolies. And this is where Peter Thiel goes after this chapter. He goes into his section on monopolies. And he says, well, monopoly and competition are obviously opposites, but business itself and competition are mutually exclusive. Like where business exists, competition doesn't exist. Where competition exists, business dies. And as Americans, we generally think that business and competition is good for business. I've read the book. It's not. I agree with Peter Thiel now. It is not good for business to be in competition with people, because competition drives up expenses, it drives down prices, cuts margins, makes you stressed, you're chasing some goal, whatever it is. And he shows you in here how Microsoft competing with IBM, I believe it was, led to big issues, like basically just like showing like different forms of competition, how they destroy companies, because companies were so focused on how they could beat some other company. It was things like Oracle, is Larry Ellison, and like Microsoft or something. There's this mosquito in my car, like Walter White with the contamination in the lab area. But so they get so involved in competition, they stop focusing on the thing that they can do that no one else can do, and then they lose monopoly, and then their profits go away, blah, 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 blah. It's interesting that Robert Greene makes a similar point in his book Mastery that I'll definitely make a video series on, because that's a really great book. But his book Mastery, Robert Greene shows how his idea of monopoly is dependent on mastery. I think that Peter Thiel's idea of monopoly, as the venture capitalist he is dependent on secrets. He believes in secrets. Robert Greene believes in mastery. I believe in both. I think secrets and mastery they work together. You need secrets and mastery. If you don't have secrets, then why gain mastery? Right? There's no information worth learning that isn't widely distributed. If all worthy knowledge is conventional, then why bother trying to learn about things? And one thing this book really showed me is how a lack of belief in secrets and exclusive knowledge leads to a widespread pessimism that will ultimately lead to the downfall of society. So one of the main takeaways from this book is for business owners, really. Like, this video is meant for those trying to better themselves, really, in any way. I mean, let's say you're an employee at a company and you want to utilize the principles of this book. I would say, well, yeah, you could just, you basically positioning. You want to make sure that you have some fundamental skill that people need, that you can provide. You package the skill up in a certain way. In some ways, actually, interestingly enough, this book is a exploration of the same ideas of Alex Hormozy, Russell Brunson, and really just all modern business from a different perspective. What 0 to 1 goes through is it goes through the technology and broader history perspective on monopoly and on the creation of new technology that leads to monopoly. Russell Brunson explores the marketing that leads to monopoly, and Hormozy, I'd say, explores the packaging, the psychology that leads to monopoly. And really, like, monopoly is an interesting idea because it comes down to monopolizing ideas, especially in this modern era of advertising. Modern advertising is idea-based. It's based on search terms. It's based on ideas. If you monopolize an idea, you can monopolize a market of people that you can now reach, and then you can exercise effective monopoly and have effective business, according to Mr. Thiel in 0 to 1. But in order to do this, really, the step-by-step process comes to creating something new that you have capitalized market share on that leads to monopoly. Week to Warrior is doing this with sleep solutions, and sleep solutions for athletes, for athletic men who are ambitious. Think business owners, primarily business owners or people who are interested in business, but ultimately, Week to Warrior is always going to be for top tier men, so I have to market it that way. But really, read the book before... Keys came out of that thing. Reading the book before I launch a certain section of the company that you guys are going to see recently, or have seen recently, coming out, to make sure that the alignment in the beginning is matched with the ultimate end vision of Week to Warrior, so that we have coherence and we have a lack of fighting with ourselves. I don't want the company to be in turmoil, fighting with itself, having to switch directions. And Peter Thiel goes through this. The founding of a company is absolutely critical to the overall trajectory of the company. I'd say he raises more questions than gives answers, and really shows how modern thinking is very limited, and how the things that we think that we know that are hard and fast rules are really not hard and fast rules. And really what we have to do is we have to question our underlying assumptions. Monopolies of the future will be built on the recognition of the fallacies of the present. That's a quote for the ages, and that's my own. Madness is uncommon in individuals, or rare in individuals, but in groups, it is the norm, and that's a Nietzsche quote. So what Peter Thiel calls us to do is to find where our society today is crazy, and to identify those opportunities, and then build monopoly businesses based on those things. And we shouldn't view monopoly businesses as opposed to helping society really profit and helping society come to the same thing. I mean, these ideas of social businesses that just help people and make money at the same time, they generally do neither. I mean, I'm fortunate enough that my business is built around solving a problem that I had that others have as well. So I don't really but I mean, I was focused on making money as absolutely possible. Week to Warrior is a incredibly profit-driven company. I'm trying to make as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, for the longest amount of time possible. Which is why you want to get into Week to Warrior University and get into the programs, because we will recruit directly from the programs for coaching opportunities, and then you will be able to get in on the profits. Does this sound like a pyramid scheme? It looks like a pyramid scheme, but it's not, because it's built on mastery. It's built on these secrets that allow Week to Warrior to have competitive advantage that no one else can replicate. And that's where the wealth comes from. The wealth comes from the knowledge that I have, then the distribution methods that I have perfected, that I allow others to have access to achieve the same results that I've achieved, both with curing insomnia and business. So ultimately, that's the value creation, and the value multiplies in accordance with each new person that is able to act through the system. So there's a lot going on here, and I'm going to make more videos on 0 to 1. So tune in tomorrow, tune in later this week. If you're tuning in months, years after, go check down below. Check for the playlist, check for book playlists, go watch all their other videos on 0 to 1, watch all my other videos on other books. Educate yourself on these ideas, guys. These ideas are really important, and contained in these videos, like, billions of dollars of information. You guys should be taking notes on all of this stuff and using this with your own companies, your own careers, so you can become wealthy as well, and afford all the higher tier products I'm developing. Yeah, to a large degree, I have concluded that I will have to teach you guys how to make large amounts of money through Week to Warrior, because a lot of the direction I want to take Week to Warrior in relies on very wealthy clientele, and frankly, wealthier clientele than exists today. We need to create an entire new class of wealthy people through the creation of many more businesses like this, so that I can have enough clients to create effective longevity solutions, so I can have the funds to do that. Because ultimately, Week to Warrior will lead to the founding of its own country that will be the epicenter of all health, fitness, and high performance information, or at least all the best all the best health, fitness, and high performance information in the world. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for more information on fasting. I'll make a quick video on fasting, because that'd be good.